Hello everyone, this is Tom Fox, and I'd like to welcome you to a special 5-part presentation on the top 5 corporate scandals of 2018 on this special presentation on Across the Board, a podcast on corporate governance. I am joined by Amy Barnard-Bahn, a well-known corporate governance. But first, have you ever considered starting a podcast? Have you ever wanted to put your voice out there? Well, if so, I'm always looking for new podcasts for the Compliance Podcast Network. If you're wondering how to get started on the production, please listen to our sponsor, One Stone Creative, on how to get going on a podcast.
If you are enjoying this show, you might enjoy hosting your own. As an expert in your field, you have skills, knowledge, and insight that can help you expand your practice, meet new people, and create amazing content to share with the world. In as little as 2 hours a week, you can dramatically change how you promote, fill, and position your business. And One Stone Creative can show you how. Learn more at onestonecreative.net.
In this special 5-part podcast series, we take a look at the following scandals: CBS and Les Moonves, 1MDB and Goldman Sachs, Facebook and its continuing drip of customer information, Tesla and its Elon Musk problem, and we conclude with Nissan and Carlos Ghosn. This special 5-part series has been a production of the Compliance Podcast Network. Hello again, this is Tom Fox, back for another episode with Amy Barnard-Bahn. We are taking a look at the top 5 corporate scandals of 2018 from the governance perspective. Today, we are going to take a look at Facebook. So, Amy, welcome back.
Thank you.
So, Amy, let's start off with what are the 3 reasons from your perspective that you think Facebook should be on our top 5 list?
Yeah, great question, Tom. I would say the number one reason is that with 2.2 billion people using the Facebook platform, that's more than a third of the planet. So I'd say just in terms of impact, anything that Facebook does and anything they get involved with impacts most of the people in the world right now. So that'd be number one. Number 2 is the problems that have arisen with Facebook this year have become geopolitical in nature. When you get into the election meddling in 2016 that broke this year, that has pushed Facebook beyond just being a kind of a fun platform or maybe a platform where you do where entrepreneurs go to promote their businesses or advertisers go to get clients. That puts us in a whole other realm of seriousness. And then third, I think just the fascination with social media over the past 14 years. I was amazed when I counted up how many years Facebook's been around, and Mark Zuckerberg created it in his dorm room at Harvard in 2004. Can you believe it's only been 14 years? I know it seems like longer than that to me, Tom, that it's been around. And so I think Facebook is kind of the bellwether of how technology is going to shift how we relate to each other as human beings and what we share, and there's just been a lot around that. And so I think that they occupy a special place in the business pantheon because they actually impact people psychologically and how we relate to each other, both good and bad.
Amy, from the corporate governance perspective, I really see some pretty big failures, both with Mark Zuckerberg, but also with Sheryl Sandberg. And I don't know, but the question I wanted to ask you is it really fair for us to consider them as evil, as bad people, or were they simply overwhelmed by forces that they admittedly unleashed, but really once unleashed had no ability to control?
Great question. I don't know that I can make a moral judgment, Tom. On them, I don't know them personally at all. I watch with interest and with hope at their leadership because they are carrying responsibility for a lot. There's been news breaking almost every day about this, and I think there have been so many scandals, just starting way back in 2007 just starting with the Facebook posting people's Blockbuster rentals, which violated the Video Privacy Protection Act. And I thought that at the time, okay, that's kind of benign. They're growing fast. They probably didn't know about that law, right? And some people may have been harmed by other people knowing what they rented, but it's nowhere near what we get up to, 2014, and then to the present day with so many users' accounts, data, address books, personal information, and then the election meddling that we get into. And then just yesterday, Zuckerberg was called to testify in front of Congress, and he said some things people wanted to hear. That if we don't protect your privacy, we don't have a right to use it. Or I'm paraphrasing here, but kind of the stuff we'd all have been hoping he was going to say. But then yesterday, a New York Times story broke that Facebook had given Netflix and Amazon and Spotify more access than even Cambridge Analytica around access to users' accounts. People had these vendors had the right to write and delete private messages, Tom. A couple of these. That's way beyond the pale. And now, was it accidental? It doesn't sound like it. I think news is still rolling out. But if that's true, that contradicts Zuckerberg's testimony to Congress. So I'm curious about whether he's going to be facing a perjury count at some point.
And then the other question is, we are moving equally fast in the world of data privacy protection, data breach protection, obviously GDPR, obviously the California law, and the penalties that have become available for regulators to levy have grown exponentially, or probably even more than that under GDPR, for instance. They can levy a penalty of 4% of annual revenues. That's not profits, it's revenues. So at some point, I guess one of my concerns is, particularly with the recent spate of revelations, literally over the past 2 weeks, that these are post-GDPR revelations. And if they're post-GDPR, that means these insane penalties can kick in. And at some point, is it going to negatively impact the stock price, share value of Facebook in a way that some of the other companies we've taken a look at on our series, they've lost shareholder value as well?
Yeah, I think a year from now, Facebook will look very different than it is today in terms of its business model. I don't see how it can still be the Wild West of app development. It clearly can't control, or hasn't been able to control, its app program interfaces, developer. The oversight hasn't been there. There's just been complete inadequate safeguards, and I almost wonder if it's too late to go back in. And we all know that it's easier to implement controls when we're building something, especially in IT. After you've got a platform built, much better to plan that out, map that out, do a good risk assessment up front about your data, your use, access, all of that before launching it. Facebook was out of the bag, again, this college dorm room, and they've tried to kind of put the genie back in the bottle, and that's really expensive. It's complex. Even doing an audit of who has access to what is likely difficult, and so I'll be really interested to see what Facebook looks like a year from now, because to your point, Tom, I think that they're going to suffer financially, and they've always had a bit of a tough business model. It's been a bit of a classic Silicon Valley profit on paper. A futuristic, betting on the future kind of a thing, business model. But we'll see. And
really, I was very interested in your third point, that Facebook is a bellwether in many ways now of how we relate to each other, to businesses, to B2B. And I think you used the term psychological impact, that because we have really a different relationship with Facebook than perhaps you and I might have over the phone, or certainly face to face, we somehow think it's different. But at the end of the day, it's just a business, and business run by people perhaps trying to do the right thing, but subject to all the foibles of human beings and mistakes when a company goes not to scale, but out of this world scale.
Yeah, and so that you're raising a great point about Facebook's business model that actually has nothing to do with money, but it's around Facebook has generated a lot of goodwill from people getting to post their baby pictures, seeing people who are serving in our armed forces potentially. They can see people back home, and it makes people feel connected even when they're far away. But as former founding president Sean Parker of Facebook has said, they built Facebook on how do we consume as much of your time and conscious attention as possible, and he's likened Facebook's design to exploiting a vulnerability in human psychology. And there's a lot of research now that we've been living with Facebook for 14 years that shows that Facebook actually doesn't make us happy because of the comparison effect that occurs and the highly curated versions of what some people put up about themselves. And if you can do a simple test. I know I've done it. Is before you go to bed, if you're looking at your Facebook account and then you turn off the light, are you happier versus if you were just reading a book or thinking about 5 great things that happened that day? And most people would say, no, it kind of left me feeling a little less than. So
well, Amy,
that's interesting for them as well to think about, I think, long term in terms of investors and where's this headed and what's the societal and business value.
Unfortunately, we're at the end of our time. I've been visiting with Amy Barnard-Bahn on Facebook and why it made our top 5 list of corporate scandals in 2018. I hope you'll join us for our next episode where we take a look at Tesla and Elon Musk. Amy, thank you again, and I look forward to continuing the conversation.
Thank you, Tom.
Hello, everyone. This is Tom Fox again. I'd like to thank you for listening to this special presentation of the top 5 corporate scandals from 2018 on across the board. We will look at another episode tomorrow, which I know you will enjoy. This presentation is a part of the Compliance Podcast Network.